We've got prosecutor Wendy Patrick, who joins us from San Diego, and also trial and appellate attorney Nick Fortuna, who is with us here in our Times Square studio. Nick, first of all, your reaction to Robert Mueller being named a special prosecutor?
Well, first of all, it's bad news for the Trump administration. He has very broad authority. What the Department of Justice gave him, he could look at anything having to do with the Russian ties or investigation and anything that it leads to. So that really opens up. He could do. He could look into all aspects of the Trump administration, and they've been sort of operating like stumblebums for the first few months, not knowing what to do. So there could be a lot of problems for them. I think you're going to see a lot of staff members either leave or get lawyers. I think that Mueller's highly credible. He'll do an excellent job in doing the investigation, but you know, in these things, there's no one there to control him or oversee. They could do whatever they want. He also has the power to indict and prosecute. That was given to him by the Department of Justice. So just because they're not calling him a special prosecutor, he does have that power. And
to impanel a grand jury, to subpoena witnesses, to ask for an indictment without even asking the Department of Justice permission.
Specifically, he's not supposed to ask the Department of Justice for permission. That's why he's independent, and that's why he was appointed at this point. I think that it's a very broad statute. Wendy's right that you have to prove intent, but there is a lot of circumstantial evidence that would help prove the intent of obstruction of justice. If you look at the history of these type of cases, it isn't that difficult to prove the intent. If it leads to a point where you're impeding the investigation, some of the intent is going to be presumed. Look what we have. We have him telling Comey he's the boss. There's a power differential between Trump and Comey at the time. They're in the White House office. He's telling him to let it go.
This is assuming these memos exist and assuming these memos were an accurate reflection of what happened.
I'd be surprised, given the nature of the reporting, that they don't exist.
Especially because Comey himself is a former federal prosecutor, so he knows as well as anybody how to write these things in such a way that he might need to use them.
I think what he has to start with is putting together a staff. He'll go to the group of FBI agents who've been working on this. He doesn't want to duplicate what's already been done, so he'll start where they left off. He might actually get some of the FBI agents on loaner to him. He'll hire lawyers to work with him to investigate, and then he'll start taking testimony under oath. He'll get sworn statement affidavits. He'll interview witnesses. He'll certainly talk to Comey right away, probably off the record to start with, so he can get some direction as to what information he has and ideas he has. He had private meetings with Trump. He'll want to know what's going on with them right away, and I think he'll be off and running.
And before this news broke, the big story was that Jason Chaffetz had asked Comey to testify next Wednesday. Do we still expect that to happen?
It depends. You know, I'd love to see it, but I think Mueller might have something to say. He'll talk to them. If he thinks it'll interfere with his startup of the investigation, they'll probably put it off.
And usually there's a deference that Congress will give and that criminal trials and separate matters will give to a federal prosecution or federal investigation, right?
Sure. They don't want to undermine the evidence. They want to make sure that it's preserved for any potential prosecution. So the Congress doesn't want to, you know, sort of trample over what's out there for Mueller.
So what happens to the House committee, the Senate committee, that we're also investigating this now in collaboration with the Department of Justice, a special counsel?
It's one of the points that you made before. It's you know, you say the Congress gets some relief. Now the focus won't be on them so much. I think they have an easy out by saying we'll take a back seat and see what the special prosecutor comes up with. I agree with Wendy. I think that they're going to start with the ties to Russia. I mean, that's the point of all this. What influence did Russia have on the election? What influence did they have on the Trump campaign? And
that could implicate some Democrats as well, potentially.
It can implicate anyone. You know, he has broad authority. As Wendy said, he'll follow the evidence where it takes him.
I know, bring the charges wherever the chips fall. That's where the charges get brought. The difference, though, is that what Congress is most concerned about is going to be, was the president actively trying to influence or impede this investigation through the actions the last couple of weeks, or maybe something that happened last year?
Right. Right. I mean, I have a little bit of a difference of opinion with Wendy on this point. I think Congress is going to take more of a step back. I think they're going to let the focus be on Mueller.
All right, Nick Fortuna and Wendy Patrick, thank you both. We appreciate it. Also, always thankful to Michael Schur, who's keeping close tabs on the reaction and how this is playing on Capitol Hill. We'll continue our coverage on I-24 News right after this.